I've been meaning to do this for a long time. I always thought of getting into vlogging, especially when I had a really bad accident and I was in bed for almost a year. I spent a lot of time on YouTube, and kind of inspired me to become a YouTuber, vlog. But every year I tell myself, yes, next year I'm definitely going to start vlogging. And then the next year I'd look at myself in the mirror and be like, shit, how did I get so old? How did I get so fat? How did I get so ugly? I need to work on myself. Okay, this year I'm going to work on myself, and then next year I'm going to start vlogging. Needless to say, the self-work or the working on oneself was very short-lived, and the next year I'd look at myself in the mirror and see things even worse. And yeah, it's a vicious cycle that never ends. As for equipment, I have this, I have that, and I have this, which I've used as little as I've used anything else. And as you can see, I have a lot of, well, not a lot, but a considerable amount of gear. They're all unplugged, not set up. I'm in the midst of changing things around, and I'm yet to figure out what that change should be. I'm just going to take it off. You stay with me. Oh. So it's day one of the lockdown, May 25th, 4th. Well, it's day one of the lockdown, 24th, Monday, 2021. Feels like just went exactly a year back in time. It's been over a year that we've all been living life very differently as opposed to the way we've been living all our lives. There's a lot of fear. Fear when it comes to a lot of things, because there's a lot of uncertainty in all aspects of life. Fear is nothing but what we refer to as anxiety these days. Anxiety. We hear that a lot, very often these days. Anxiety. Nothing but different forms of fear. For someone who says that they don't know what anxiety is, they've never felt anxiety before, that's kind of like someone telling you that they've never felt happiness before. Come on. Of course you felt happiness at some point in time, you know. Same goes for anxiety. It's just fear and being scared. It's normal. It's absolutely normal. Everybody goes through it, feeling fear or being scared. But unfortunately, we are living in a time when everything is bringing us a lot of fear. Be it work, be it finances, be it relationships, and then biggest fear of all, the fear of losing your loved ones. These are very, very trying times. And for someone to feel anxious and to feel fear, feel scared at this point in time is definitely normal. It's not out of the ordinary. I was diagnosed with anxiety disorder back in 2019. It was a eureka moment, because it was in the hospital that we finally came to know that I was suffering from an anxiety disorder. A eureka moment simply because I'd gone to the emergency room quite a few times. Every time I needed to go to the emergency room, it was tachycardia. For what reasons? Acute gastric, whatever. This other time it was fever. There was this one time when they said maybe I need to get my blood sugar levels checked. So by which time I've already been to the emergency room quite a few times. And each time I had been diagnosed with something or the other closely related to whatever it is that they could relate it to at that point in time. There was one time when I had just finished a meeting and I was heading to a friend's for dinner. It was Ramzan or something like that thing, so something special. I was going for dinner to a friend's, and on the way I felt very uneasy, and I immediately called my doctor friends, the angels that they are, told her that I'm not feeling too well, and she asked me, is it tachycardia? And I said, yeah, it is tachycardia. she said, yeah, head to the emergency, I'll see you there. So I head to the emergency room and I go straight to the doctor that's sitting over there and I say, my heart is beating a bit too fast. They immediately got up and they put me in a bed and they, put all that stuff in and started checking my vitals, and my heart rate was somewhere around 190 at that point in time. So they started asking me questions like, have you done any drugs? Which was the first and the most asked question, because they couldn't understand what could possibly make my heart beat so fast. The most obvious thing would be drugs. So I told them I definitely didn't do any drugs, and I had in fact, and so they were asking for recent history, like where you're coming from. I said I just finished a meeting, I was going to my friends, and then I didn't feel right, so I came here. So they again went, so did you do any drugs on the way? I said no, and I said, if you don't mind me asking you, am I dying? Because if I am dying, I'd like to make a few phone calls. Because I was panicking. I was in extreme panic. That's what it was, right? It was a panic attack, anxiety attack, and which the doctors obviously didn't figure out at that point in time. Anyway, by the time, so they couldn't give me any medication to bring my heart rate down, because they weren't sure what had my heart rate going up. So then they told me, okay, if you want to call somebody, now would be a good time because your heart rate's touching 220 and we are preparing for in case you go into cardiac arrest. And I was like, okay then. So I called up my mom and I told her that I'm in the emergency room yet again, and this time it looks like I'm here to stay. So you need to come here. So she did. A few hours later, I started calming down, because I guess the whole scenario started getting got very, I mean, I've been to that emergency room only a million times, that same emergency room, at first for my dad and then for myself, and it's become such a comfort zone, and plus the doctors over there, my friends over there, like really good care of us, me and my family. So I've never thought twice about which hospital to go to. It's always been, and it's the closest big hospital from where I live, which is the middle of nowhere. So I started coming down, so obviously my heart rate started coming down, and while my heart rate was up, they'd obviously called the cardiologist. He did an echo on me and he couldn't find anything wrong with my heart. So then they made me stay there. That was the first time I ever stayed over after heading to an emergency room, because normally I'd have an anxiety attack, I'd end up in the emergency room. Once the attack had passed, they'd conclude that it's either my sugar or my BP or my fever or gastric or whatever it is, and send me back home. But this time they said, we need to run a few tests on you and let you go only after that, because this is pretty scary. You could have died today. Wasn't the first time that I almost died, but we'll get to that another day. We'll get to all of them another day, many other days. So I stayed in the hospital for a couple of days, ran a whole bunch of tests head to toe, and this doctor friend of mine, Ramya, she insisted that I meet this senior doctor who would be coming in a few days, and in any case she wasn't gonna say yes to just discharging me anytime before I meet this doctor. And I'm so glad that I met this doctor, because that was the last time I ever went to the emergency room for an anxiety attack, no matter how bad the attack was. I'll tell you why. Anyway, so please do understand that all this while I have no idea what's going on. I just feel like what I'm going through is I feel like I'm dying. I feel like my heart is giving way. I feel like it's my dog, and she's getting bored. She's normally the center of attention in this room, or any other room for that matter, and she just can't understand why this ring of light is getting way more attention than she is. No, Missy, you'll have to start getting used to it. No, shall I send you down? Shall I send you out? Do you want to go down? Do you want to go down? Just want attention. So yeah, every single time that I ended up in the emergency room, the feeling is that my heart's giving way, or my lungs are not working properly, and that creates a sort of panic. So then I finally met this doctor, and he came in. He came in with his whole entourage of specialists from different sections: gastric, pulmonary, cardiac, blah 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 blah. And he came in and he immediately started asking each specialist for their verdict, and I got the green signal from all of them. Nobody could find anything wrong with me. Physically, I was in all right shape, tip top. I'm not too sure, but I was all right. There was nothing wrong with me. So then he asked me, "So what exactly were you doing when this happened to you?" And I said, "I was driving." He said, "Okay. When was the first time this ever happened to you?" And I said, "From what I remember, 2010." And he said, "Okay. What about the last time this happened to you? What were you doing?" And I said, "I was driving." And he asked me if I had ever been in any accidents. And I said, "Yes, 15. If you add the last one, in which I was in bed for a year, I think." My doctor friend Ramya completed that sentence. She was the one who told the doctor. So his last accident, he broken his spine in 3 places, and I'd broken my tailbone and I'd broken my hand. And, I was pretty much left for dead, and it took a long time for me to rehabilitate from that and get myself together. But anyway, so the minute he realized that I'd been in this whole accidental form of trauma, and so many times, he immediately looked at my friend and said, "This case needs to be shifted to psychiatric." I was like, "Did I just hear that right? Psychiatric?" And it was this feeling of a lot of unknown and a lot of shit that actually makes so much more sense. But I still didn't know that I had an anxiety disorder, because all I had experienced was this sudden fear that some part of my body, either my lungs or my heart, isn't working properly, and that I'm gonna die. It's a feeling I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. It's as close as you can get to death, the feeling of death at least. And from my last experience in the emergency room, it seems like you can actually die from it. And I've been living with an anxiety disorder for quite some time. Isn't anxiety and anxiety disorder the same thing? No, it isn't. It's very, very different. And to figure out what the difference is, simply put, is to just understand the word disorder. And you add that to anything, and, well, imagine what you get. So, you had a stomach disorder. What could it possibly be? Lately, considering times have been so trying, and it has been, I'm sure it has been for everybody, a lot of people, and it has been for me as well. A business that I started 7 years ago, it's been more than a year since I've seen a check with my business name on it. I have another business which is quite literally not running at this moment because of the lockdown. I think the whole world is going through the usual suspects of problems. It's just that it's a lot more amplified during this pandemic because there's not much that we can do about, and this brings about a lot of fear. I started today, which happens to be the first day of the actual lockdown, driving to the city, to the hospital to meet the psychiatrist, and that was my 4th visit in the last 2 or 3 months. So yeah, as much as the world around me is crumbling right now in every single aspect, can't get as bad as, that's what they all say, but it's really bad. My situation is really bad, but I am here sitting at this point in time after so many years of, and trust me, so many years of doing my first video. It's a new day. So I'm just heading home. The walk's over, I'm back. Alright guys, so I recently purchased. Now this is something I need to get used to. Putting my face into everything that I shoot. At this point in time when I should be either scrambling to find a way to get all the solutions to all my problems right now, or probably hang myself. The thought of suicide used to flash in my head at least 15 times a day. When the situation is such, it's very ironic that I have never ever been more at peace with myself and the world than I am right now. Yes, I am on medication, no doubt about it. But it's medication isn't really, the way the previous generation made it seem to be. And it's most definitely nothing like the drugs that this generation does socially. It's very, very different. We'll get to that as well on another day. So much to cover. See, I have so much content. I'm definitely gonna spam the whole YouTube and hopefully make a rupee, because I still haven't made up for all this equipment which I've been slowly selling piece by piece to live in this world and be a part of this wonderful country. I mean, I can take it. I finally reached the stage in my life where I'm willing to figure myself out, take the time to figure myself out. Also, I'd say when your hands are tied and there's absolutely nothing you can do to better your situation, at least just try and better yourself, so that you can sleep with a little less guilt. Because no matter how much we blame the pandemic for shit going down south, there's always this thought in our heads that if we had only prepared a little better, if we had only focused a little more, we would have been in a better situation when shit hits the ceiling. But it is what it is.